Hey, tech enthusiasts. Thank you for joining us on this episode 10 of TechBus. We have a special guest and a special episode, our first remote guest. Today, we'll be talking about accounting and growth metrics with special guest Dan Schmidt. Dan, thank you for joining us.
Afternoon, morning, wherever you are.
Before we get started, I don't know if you're a Chiefs fan, but our Chiefs pulled it out last night. And
despite scoring nothing in the second half.
Hey, we'll take it. We'll take it either. I don't know. You're from Omaha, but you're in Kansas City. I'll let everybody know that. How's the climate up there right now?
About 5 degrees warmer than you. No difference at all.
Awesome. Well, Dan, I was reading about the emerging business CFO. It says it began in 2009. Can you tell our listeners how it began, where it started, and what your role is?
Yeah. So it was kind of one of a start and stop kind of thing. So my background was as a CPA, lots of time in public accounting and consulting. I made a first stab going out on my own in 2009. Had lots of lessons to learn. Backed off of it, just wasn't working that time, so I backed off of it until about 2013 and then started back up again. What I saw in the marketplace, the traditional CPA thing is just do everybody's taxes and work like a crazy person 3 months out of the year, and then you're bored the rest of the year, and I didn't particularly like that.
Right.
I also found I was always the why or the what if kid, which is much more geared towards being a CFO than it is a tax person. And when I looked around the marketplace, I saw a lot of small businesses, tech companies that were starting up who maybe had a great product, but didn't necessarily, but struggled on the business side.
Yeah.
You have a great product, but if you can't take it to market, if you can't figure out some metrics around your business, how to run a business well from a dollars perspective, you're kind of dead in the water. I think we've got tons of history all the way back to VHS days and Betamax, right?
Right.
Betamax was a better product. But they couldn't build a business around it. They had a better product, not as good of a business, therefore they didn't own the market. So our goal is really to come in and help, one, offload all of those kind of day-to-day accounting, payroll, bookkeeping tasks from businesses, because that's generally not what they went into business to do. We kind of voice them often. And then we come in alongside them and say, hey, here's your numbers. We did your numbers for you. You want to know what they mean also? And so we help try to put a meaning with the numbers and then allow them to make good informed business decisions to help move the company forward.
Yeah. So, CFO, Chief Financial Officer, when you got involved in this, had you been in that role previously?
I had the opportunity to be in a couple different companies and work both at the full-blown CFO level, and then in one particular company work alongside a really high-powered CFO who had come from a Fortune 500 company and then had come to this other smaller organization to kind of put their ship in order. I got to work alongside her and really get a first row seat into what it looks like to be a CFO for a growing company. They were going from, they were headed towards the 100 million range, but they needed a lot of analysis, a lot of strategic thinking that had to go into that. Like, how do we get from point A to point B? And she was really good at that. So I got to sit right beside her, help her make those decisions, understand how her brain worked, and then take that and deploy it into other situations.
Nice. So I'm very interested in this because me and Tom are always talking about industries and how they adopt technology. Where does the accounting industry fall into that? And was that your inspiration for starting this?
So I'm sure this is shocking to you and all of the listeners, but accountants are not normally known for being early adopters. The adoption curve work on the very tail end of it usually.
Yeah.
It's not an industry that is particularly risk tolerant. We want to prove that everything works before somebody jumps ship and adopts technology. So you still have, if you go out and look at accounting firm websites, you can kind of get an idea of where they probably are in the technology adoption curve.
Yeah.
When I started this the first time in 2009, the technology really wasn't there. It was QuickBooks Desktop, and that was the only game in town. When I started back up in 13, there started to be the movement towards the cloud environment, and there were some platforms that were starting to make their play in the marketplace on that, such as Xero, QuickBooks Online. So we've really focused at EBCFO on heavy use of cloud-based technologies.
Nice.
Usually people are pretty shocked when we come into a room and we talk with developers and think, well, I'd recommend this platform because it's got an API, and if you need to know where the SDK is for that, then here I can point you to that, and you kind of look at me like I drew a third eye because nobody's used to hearing accountants talk about tech terms.
Okay.
But for us, it's either, the traditional way to do accounting is throw people at the problem and just kind of sit in an office by yourself and punch numbers all day. I don't like working that way, honestly.
Yeah.
And, your data is always 4 weeks behind if you do it that way. And data is only useful if it's timely and accurate. Accountants have always had the accuracy piece right, but they're not very good at the timeliness. I think leveraging technology really allows that timeliness piece to come into play.
Did you want me to just...
Yeah, I was curious. I know obviously everyone probably heard of QuickBooks, and we run our business with QuickBooks as well. Is there other software that in the CFO accounting world, as far as document management, account management, is that still people throwing stuff on a file share, or how is that advanced? Sort of on the backside of things.
Yeah, there's a whole ecosystem of cloud-based apps and platforms out there now for the accounting and finance industry. Your early stage companies, there's Wave and FreshBooks. If you're now in the growth stage, there's QuickBooks Desktop, like you said. There's another one called Xero, who's a big player internationally now. They've moved into the U.S. marketplace. They've got a pretty good footprint and trying to expand that. And then if you get into the large organizations, you've got Intact and NetSuite, who was just acquired Oracle. And so you now have players that are kind of all across the growth curve. So in addition to that, Xero is a really good example of that. They made a strategic decision, the old school software development method, we're going to give you a little bit of everything. None of it's going to be very good, but at least it's everything.
Right.
Xero really took the modern approach of, we're going to build an accounting core that's really functional, and we're going to have a really robust API under it. And so now they have 500 add-on partners. So, if you're talking about document management, you may have Receipt Bank or HubDoc. If you're talking about bill pay, Bill.com is out there. If there's payroll, you've got Gusto, which used to be Zen Payroll. You've got, the ADPs and the paychecks, and all of those integrate together. Most of these also do have document APIs so that you can hook those up, transfer stuff seamlessly, and watch it all flow through, and your accounting magically is now done on time.
Nice.
Do you think that, you're talking about all these different add-on and integration points, is that the direction it's been going in the accounting world, where you maybe 5-10 years ago you had these monolithic systems like QuickBooks, and now it's kind of going to sort of these smaller services that specialize in one thing and then integrating them into a system that fits your needs?
Yeah, I really think that's the path forward, because even the really large ERPs that were in play 10 or 15 years ago didn't solve everybody's problems. And each of these little smaller platforms that now integrate, they'll have a particular niche that they're better at than the other ones. And so if you're in a position like EBCFO is, where we make the recommendations for the software, we take on the task of knowing what the platforms are out there, really assessing what a client needs. We try to be platform agnostic. We just know there's a lot of great solutions out there. We try to be aware of them. So if somebody comes and says, hey, I've got this problem and it's this fact pattern, we can turn around and say, yeah, we've looked at that before. Here's 3 options. Of those 3, we probably recommend this one for these particular reasons. So I think in the accounting space, there's now an opportunity not just to be a good accountant, but to be a good technologist.
How do you stay on top of that? Obviously your primary job is being the CFO, but what do you guys do to keep on top of the latest technology and make the best recommendations for your clients?
You just kind of make a decision as a firm. That's one of the values that you hold. I mean, it's one of our CFO values, is that we're going to be proficient in technology as it moves forward. And you commit to, 10% of your time probably is spent just testing platforms, something that comes across your radar, and sign up for the demo, and then you ask lots of questions, and you try to see if they've got a sandbox you can get in there and play around with, or a demo copy, and put it through the paces. It's just a commitment to understanding what's out there and staying up to speed on it.
As far as understanding what's out there and kind of rewinding back to some of the stuff you mentioned about the cloud, I was on the website. I saw that you have three main solutions listed. So accounting, analysis, and advice. That's really similar to what we do here at Linkstream. We have the developer cloud, contract resources, and custom development. Are those the three main components that drive your industry? The accounting.
Run through how those work together. So the accounting, obviously, that's kind of the baseline. If you're gonna have data, then for us, that's the accounting. It's just columns and numbers. And by themselves, they're not necessarily useful, and so that's where the analysis comes in. I mean, it's great to look and see what you did 6 months ago, but it doesn't necessarily inform the future unless you can do some analysis on it. And analysis for us always starts with not just this number compared to another number, it's understanding what your assumptions were when you made that first number.
Okay.
Because the reality is accounting is just this language that allows you to interpret business results. It's not the end game that we're looking at. We're just trying to use that as a way to quantify and communicate things that are happening inside the business. And so that's where that analysis piece comes in. If you look at a company that has $1 million in revenue, you need to understand whether that was $100,000 sales at $10 each or just $100,000 sales. Because there's a pretty big difference on strategic direction and how you're going to quantify things. And then there's kind of the non-financial metrics that you've got. A sales funnel that's coming in the door. You can convert it from one place in the funnel to another place in the funnel at a 40% conversion rate. These are all metrics and statistics, and accountants, we tend to be good at numbers, but they're the numbers without dollar signs in front of them. And really the value in running a business is understanding how your numbers with dollar signs and numbers without dollar signs play together well. And so that leads in, once that analysis piece is done, then we can come and make recommendations, and that's the advice. And that's what we find is, a lot of times missing, that people will have their books done and their accounting may be reasonably accurate, but unless you have somebody who's going to come in alongside you, partner with you, really act as that kind of right-hand CFO. And when somebody says, I want to do X, and you can look at it and say, okay, well, this is what's happened in the past. In order to make that happen, here's what you're going to need to do. And here's some of the recommendations we have. And that's where we find the really competitive value.
What are you looking at market share for what you guys offer? I imagine if you have a really small company, they're probably just going to use QuickBooks or something like that. And then you have a really large company, they're probably going to have an on-site CFO.
Yeah.
Where in that spectrum do you guys fall, we think?
Yeah, we have found that the kind of the bread and butter clients for us are where we can really make the most impact is companies that are between $500,000 and $10 million in top line revenues. Before that, we work with companies, but they just don't have the complexity. They may just have one product line. They don't have a lot of cash flow issues. You can get up to $500,000, pretty quickly and without too much trouble. But that $500,000 to $2 million, especially, that's probably the hardest part of the growth track for most companies, because you've got so many more things going on. You don't necessarily have the capital that you would like to have to solve your problems. You can't just throw money at it generally. And so us filling in, and then by the time you hit 10 million in revenues or maybe 20, you should be looking at a full-time CFO and accounting department yourself. So, some of our clients are on that growth track where they're going to outgrow us. We set that expectation from day one. If you're a high growth tech company, we want you to outgrow us because that means you win. And there's a lot of other companies that maybe are going to stop at 2 to 5 million and they're just going to use us for the next 10 years. And we're fine with either one of those. The ultimate goal is whatever that business owner wants for their business, that's what we're going to go help them achieve.
For what you guys are doing, are there some big players already involved, or how does your competition look, or are you guys kind of the key players in this?
It depends on the geographic region. So while we tend to be platform agnostic, we tend to use the Xero platform more than the other ones. And at least here in the Midwest, the adoption rate for Xero is not there yet. So we're the primary Xero advisor within probably a 300 or 400 mile radius. Other people are starting to catch up with that. Now, in terms of the virtual CFO thing, it's still fairly new, but you're starting to see more people. So in Kansas City, for example, where we're headquartered, we've got probably 4 other firms who do similar things to what we do.
Yeah.
The one thing that is an interesting trend in the accounting industry is not just this move towards cloud, but also a move towards really deep specialization. So for us, we'll work with tech startups, we'll work with nonprofits, and we'll work with physical product companies. We have clients that are all across that range. We have them in most industries, but those are really the three we focus on. I know some of the other firms in Kansas City that are kind of like us. Maybe one specializes in construction, one specializes in tech companies that are farther down the growth curve because she has a CFO background, the founder of that firm, CFO background in a really large organization. And so she may take companies from, hey, we closed our A round of funding and we're going to go to our B or C round, and really she's going to bridge that gap. There's somebody else who maybe specializes in that geographical region down the Kansas side. So it's more that there's that specialization happening than having just one player. The accounting industry in general has always been somewhat fragmented because professional services, pretty low barriers to entry, so a lot of people get into it and try things out, which I think is good. And the reality is, I think there's a lot of opportunities for collaboration in the space. I mean, we have about 120 clients that we've worked with over the past several years. And, if we exceed 500 or 600 clients, that's suddenly a really large accounting firm.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that goes on there. And if you look at the number of small businesses that need help in an Omaha or a Lincoln or a Kansas City, it's far more than 600. So there's an opportunity for people who are willing to commit to some of the things that we've committed to and really move into a market. I know there's a guy up there, two guys that I know up in Omaha besides us. We work in the tech space up in Omaha. But I know somebody who's working with chiropractors and dentists up there who uses Xero as a platform.
Yeah.
I know somebody else who's got a little larger organization, which is Xero, QuickBooks Online, and some of the Microsoft accounting platforms, and they specialize in those. So I think there's really a lot of opportunity in the space.
Is it important to these companies when you're handling their accounting that you understand their specific industry, that you've had experience with that?
Yeah, it is, because, again, it's a number by itself. It's just a number. It doesn't have meaning. And so being able to benchmark companies against other players in their industry is really pretty important. And each industry varies. In construction, your margins are going to be a lot thinner than with a SaaS company. And a SaaS company, you should have 80+% margins. In a construction company, if you can get better than 30%, 35%, you're doing really well. So, and knowing that, and then that also helps you when you're making recommendations, because there may be a reason why you're not necessarily right in line with your particular industry. If you're a premium hardwood flooring installer, you're going to have lower margins than you would if you were just going and slapping laminate flooring down, in rental houses.
Right.
So understanding not just their particular niche in the industry, but their industry overall was really a way to add value.
Awesome.
I was going to ask you, one of the things that Tomas told me about, you're big on like creating entrepreneurship networks and things like that. We're pretty involved in the tech scene here in Omaha, but it seems like there's kind of not as close as a connection as there probably could be between Kansas City and Omaha. Have you guys encountered that much, or do you think there's things we can do to make some more, working together in different ways? Because we've got one of the things we have in Omaha is sort of a talent shortage in developers and some of the software space. And there's a lot of ideas going around, but just, how can we as a region collaborate better and maybe break down some of those walls?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities there. There hasn't been the connection that I might have hoped between, Omaha, Kansas City, Des Moines, Wichita, Lincoln, between all those cities. I mean, at least from Kansas City, all of those, even St. Louis or Columbia, Manhattan, Kansas, those are all opportunities, and they're all 3 hours from Kansas City, which is a long day trip to drive somewhere and back, but it's definitely doable. And the fact that the technology exists now to work remotely, I would definitely love to figure out how to solve that problem. One of the successes we've had of making the connections is just being in both cities, in Omaha and Kansas City. And when we come up and we, maybe talk to some companies at Straight Shot, or we're in the Exchange, the Startup Collaborative in the Exchange building there, and we go talk to some of them, just being in the room with people or being in that building, so they'll stop by, talk to you for 5 minutes, and they'll make a comment. You're like, I know somebody in Kansas City who's working on it. So you almost have to have some people who are active in both spaces, who have some eyes and some ears for those collaboration opportunities. So I think the more people we can get kind of taking that ambassador role between the two cities, it's going to be great for the community.
What could you talk a little bit about the tech startup scene in Kansas City?
Yeah, it's it's starting to mature. We've had we're starting to see the first round of startups either exit or get acquired. The average life cycle, I believe, for a startup is 6 to 7 years in the tech industry before there's some kind of exit. And we're now probably 5 or 6 years in Kansas City to really being this more robust. So we're going to start seeing the second generation firms, second generation entrepreneurs start new things. And I think that's going to be pretty exciting to see. We're kind of, at least my take on it, where we are right now is when I first started in the scene about 4 years ago, there was a lot of noise, a lot of people out talking all the time. And I feel like some of that's fallen off. And I think it's because they all went out and started something. Now they're kind of neck deep into building some really amazing things. And so you don't hear as much from people because they're out there just getting stuff done. And so it's interesting to kind of see that ebb and flow in the life cycle of a tech space.
Yeah. What are some of the big, you mentioned several acquisitions and stuff. Could you talk about what are some of the big companies that have come out of Kansas City in the last 3 or 4 years?
Well, the big one that we had, just a few months ago was the iVerify acquisition by an Alibaba subsidiary. I don't think anybody knows the exact number, but it's believed to be north of 100 million. So that was a pretty large acquisition that just happened. And it brought a lot of notoriety into Kansas City because it's, biometric security, which is pretty kind of a sexy topic right now, right? And there have been some others. It's also been interesting that there have been a few companies that have either started in either Kansas City or Omaha and opened offices in the other city, or have actually transitioned between the two. So I expect to see, over the next 12 to 24 months, some more of those exits and acquisitions. I think Omaha is maybe, 3 years into that first round of entrepreneurship where there's starting to be some really robust companies. You've got the ones that were the really front-end ones, Eldershred, trying to think of the Flywheel is up there, right?
Yeah.
Some of those that we're starting to see that, something may happen with them in the next 1 to 2 years, but I'd expect in another 3 or 4 years up in Omaha to really see some activity going on.
This might be a good point to take a break. Maybe when we come back, we could talk about your blog. I saw you, and then maybe KCDC and Tech Week, and how it compares to HTC here in Omaha.
Okay, great.
All right.
Awesome guy.
Stay tuned.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're at the Linkstream TechBus podcast studio. We're here with Dan Schmidt in Kansas City, founder of you don't call it the emerging, right? You've slimmed it down a little bit.
We have nobody can be CFO. Yeah, we got to try to stay in the whole thing.
Awesome. So I wanted to talk about Tech Week because that was something we were interested in. We didn't go this year, but we plan on going next year. I know you've probably been involved with HTC here. How do the two compare? And Tech Week, is that something that people from Omaha and the technology community should be checking out?
Yeah, I think, it was definitely interesting being part of it. So because like most entrepreneurs, I can't do just one thing. I'm actually, kind of a minority owner in a tech company here in Kansas City, in addition to CFO called Feed Me Local, which is working on creating a series of farm management and marketplace apps to connect small local farmers to the local food scene. So
nice.
The company made the top 50 cut for Tech Week, so we got to
nice
exhibiting there. We're still early stage, we're still in a beta But it's fun to see that side of it, right? And that just makes me a better CFO having tech startup.
Right.
I'm not sure my wife always appreciates me doing that many things, but we figure it out. Yeah, Tech Week was good. There were a lot of meetups. I didn't get to go to quite as many of the developer-driven um, presentations that I might have liked. I'm not a developer myself. I can usually mostly figure out what developers are talking about when they're up on stage and I can just follow along. But I think there's a lot of value from going, even for a non-technical person, that they can follow along and see some of the stuff going on. There were a lot of meetups, and I think maybe that's the big takeaway for me is just the opportunity to go rub shoulders. If you're familiar with Think Big in Kansas City, one of the things I was talking about is intentional collisions. That's actually one of the offices from Think Big Co-working. And Herb C, who founded Think Big, is big on intentional collisions. And his belief is you get enough people in a room and just turn them loose or in a workspace and let them just talk to each other, good things are going to happen. I think a lot of Tech Week was driven off of that just the connections that are made during an event like that, or one of the tech events up in Omaha. That's really the opportunity. It's not necessarily getting in front of a potential investor. It's rubbing shoulders with people who think like you. It gets you motivated, kind of gets you out of the day-to-day grind that you get stuck in sometimes when you're just heads down working on a project. It lets you kind of engage some of those creative juices again and get somebody to challenge your assumptions, even if it's just being in a room with them. And lets you kind of come back to what you were doing with some new insights.
Is Think Big, is that like the Exchange downtown where it nurtures?
Yeah, similar. Yeah, co-working space does have an accelerator, does a lot of community programming. So yeah, very similar to the Exchange.
Yeah. So how active are you with the speaking there? Do you guys do a lot of presentations for the group or?
Yeah, we try to fairly regularly. I'd probably say, once a quarter. There's also, and if anybody's a professional service provider, if they're comfortable getting in front of people, I think the startup community is always just hungry for information.
Yeah.
And that's probably a good community member. That whole give first mentality that TechStars preaches, and I love that because it's, you can, as a professional, you can get out and you can say, well, call me and we'll set up an initial consult and I charge a reduced rate for that, or you can just go give information away and help make a better community, and everybody learns to do that stuff. There's another co-working space player in the ecosystem in Kansas City called ECJC. They're down on the Kansas side, and they put a lot of presentations on. We go to do 4 to 6 talks a year on accounting and finance topics, and you wouldn't believe the number of people who want to come listen to an accountant.
Yeah.
We're not known for being interesting usually, but those are really well attended.
You guys are the hottest thing coming up next, Dan. Yeah.
If our goal is to make better entrepreneurs and help the entrepreneurial ecosystem go win overall, like I said earlier, there's only so many clients we can work with one-on-one. So as a professional services provider, the value for us to add to the community isn't just our clients, it's the people that we can go talk to and help with the education piece. I think that's huge.
Nice.
I was gonna ask another kind of different topic question here. You had mentioned that accounting, CFO are kind of laggards in technology, generally speaking. I've noticed that in the legal world as well. This is kind of a tough question to answer, but when do you think that's going to tip? Do you think that's going to be an age thing where you have some of younger people kind of taking over these firms and stuff where the adoption is going to accelerate, or do you think it's always going to be an industry that lags?
I think it's always going to be an industry that lags because I think you're going to have the 20, 30-somethings that are coming up through the ranks right now in both the legal and the accounting industries who are going to be willing to adopt current technology. Well, by the time they get to be 40 or 50 years old, there's going to be another round of technology that they're not comfortable with. Right?
So you think it's more of
It's the personality profile of somebody who goes into accounting. They like things that work. They like things that are proven. They don't want to mess around with trying to figure out how to make something work. Not like a technologist would. Not like somebody who's a developer who said, yeah, I know, I got it and it didn't work, but I figured out how to fix it. That is just a different personality type. So I think there's always going to be a lag, but I do think that at least in terms of adoption of cloud and the modern systems, that will start to turn in the next 5 to 10 years.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Well, I think that's all the questions I had. Was there anything? One of the things we kind of usually do at the end of the show is allow our guests to kind of share any sort of links or contact information so anyone can get a hold of you. Obviously there are probably people listening that are into technology, so they might need your services, but just kind of share if there's anything you want, and then we could put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're always welcome to check out our website. It's ebcfo.com. Or if they want to reach out and email us, it's info@ebcfo.com. We're definitely going to talk to people. If there's opportunities to speak, we're starting to see more of those all the time, and we love just coming up and talking to groups about accounting and accounting technology and how to think about a business kind of holistically and from a top level viewpoint, not just debits and credits. So, then for us, that's part of the giving back mentality or the give first mentality. Also, if there are, if there's someone in the audience who is an accountant and wants to connect about some of the technology that's out there right now, we're always glad to talk about that. We kind of feel like, that information is out there in the market. We'd rather work on creating a network of professionals who are savvy about technology and who can go serve clients well from that perspective, rather than trying to keep it close to ourselves. We're limited on how much we can do. So let's just create a network of people who can go serve the ecosystem well.
Awesome, man.
That's great.
Well, Dan,
go ahead.
Thank you for doing this with us. We hope to meet you in person soon. And just want to remind all our viewers to visit techbus.io, subscribe to the newsletter so you can get information about new upcoming shows. We got some great ones coming up. Dan, thank you again. Go Chiefs. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.